What Now? Collecting for the Library in the 21st Century is a two-part exhibition that illuminates the Huntington's ongoing role in documenting the human experience. There are some 50 objects in the show, all worthy of attention, but this set of source material offers some insight into our current immigration debate. From 1909 to 1928, the U.S. government required all Chinese people with legal status in the country to obtain certificates of identity.
I think there is something to be said that when you are being confronted with an actual artifact, an item, such as this identification that we are seeing. So even though you can read about this part of history in books, you can read about it, you can look at it on documentary film, but to have the ability to be confronted with this particular document that says so much about the foundation of this country, where did our current, immigration enforcement came from? Everything has to start somewhere. So the Chinese Exclusion Act came into in effect starting in the year 1882 and up till 1943. And the Chinese exclusion actually, the main purpose of the exclusion was to forbid the entrance of Chinese laborers coming into the United States. So the anti-Chinese feelings really started at the moment when the Chinese started to come in large numbers. It started out in the 1850s when a large number of Chinese came into the San Francisco area in search of gold, just like so many other miners who came to California at this time. And then over the years, you have another wave come in because of the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad. And then you go into the 1870s, that's when the labor union movements really was able to gain, was able to attract the attention of the nation by talking about the dangers of the Chinese, by talking about how the Chinese were downgrading the lifestyles, the living standards of the United States. And so for this particular items, I wanted to showcase the difficulties of forming a families as a Chinese American. And so for a lot of these Chinese American men who vastly outnumbers the number of Chinese women in the United States in the early 20th century, one of the best ways for them to get married, to form a family, was to travel back to China, meet someone there, and because of their status as a naturalized American citizen, they were allowed to bring their Chinese wives and or children, if they have any, back to the United States. So this particular collection and many other collections that we have on Chinese American history, where I place a lot of priority and focus on, is to document what was happening during the Chinese exclusion era. This particular certificate of identity it came with the original envelope, and it also has some dates written on it, perhaps by the immigration attorney or by the subject herself. We don't really know. So for this particular certificate, we are looking at the identification of Chen Yunying, and she is the wife of Chinese-American lawyer Kenneth Fong. And so as soon as she steps into the port, whether here in Los Angeles or in San Francisco, I think she will have to go through a very lengthy interrogations here. And then judging from her dress and judging from the way that the hair is done and her jewelries and earrings, so they probably view her as someone who is from a wealthier background, so there might be a little bit less questioning, but it's always hard to say for sure. And so once you're clear all the necessary steps within the Immigration Bureau, then she's allowed to reunite with her husband here in the States. This is something that happened, really not that long ago. The Chinese exclusion was repealed only in 1943, and comprehensive immigration reform did not happen until 1965. And so this is all very recent history. And so, a lot of times when I listen or watch to mainstream media talk about immigration reforms, or when they're talking about immigration policy, they almost never talk about the Chinese exclusion. So I think what we have to do is to try to get these collections out there, through digital forms or through exhibition, through articles, whatever, because I think at the end of the day, only truth matters.